We're going to talk about how to weather the storm. It's likely that it's not going to be over anytime soon, and that we need to look at what we have learned. We need to search for a silver lining in what that is, and figure out what we take from this horrible year we've had into the future. And there is always something to be taken. Those challenges were really pretty tough, but we made it through a lot of things. We learned a lot of things about ourselves that we never thought we'd be doing Zoom calls that would be flowing like they flow, or that you would be going to court via Zoom call. And it has given us a new look at what technology can do for us. So one is to embrace the technology that we've learned in so many ways. If it's Zoom calls, or it's how you project or how you present yourself in a speech, how you think about the presentation in court or in a deposition via that medium, and look at the things that you did well. Look at the things that were comfortable and build on those things. That will make a huge, huge difference. 2020 has been a roller coaster, to say the least, right? Sometimes coming off the edge and your stomach sinking to your feet. It's been up and down and up and down. And I think that how we've been able to blend our work with our family and personal life has been awesome. Awesome, because we never thought it could be that way. I have tons of clients who have said, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. I can't be a teacher and be a lawyer and go to depositions and then help him with his course. But somehow you did it. Somehow you did it. And it is not easy. And so how we were able to flow from working with your family, whatever that need may be, and then working with your colleagues, whatever that need may be, and blending it together so that it flows. And sometimes you may be working at 2 a.m. Sometimes you may be working at 7 a.m., but you have the ability to weave it together better. And so now going into 2021, how can you fine-tune that? How can you get more structure around it, even though it feels like it's willy-nilly and it's not in any kind of structure? But there is structure. It just looks very, very different than what it did before. It isn't be at your office at 9 o'clock, go to lunch at noon, leave your office at 5, 6, 7, come home. It is all blended together. Do you really need to be in your office? That really has opened our eyes about office space. How do we really manage that need? There's a lot of things that we get from being in an office and a community. I have several clients who just need that separation, and good. They've found out that that's what they need. Even if they're going to an office with no one in it, it gives them this sense of place, and they can think better, and they're more productive. Some people have realized there's really not a need to be in your office, and that hour, 2 hours that you save commuting you put that back into your family or into your practice. And that's a great benefit. I predict that there's going to be a lot of people who decide they really don't need their office the way they thought they did before, or they don't need as much office space as they thought they did. And more clients are going to be agreeable to meeting on the phone or in a Zoom call, because now we're all used to it, right? So it's easier to get the world around you to embrace this different way of officing, whether it's a little bit in your old office, or maybe you rethink about your house and how you accommodate an office so that you can close the door and you can make it more conducive to what you need it to be. I think it's our attitude and how we embrace the challenges, how we looked at it and fought our way through the challenge in a way that enhanced our life, or fought it every step of the way. If we fought it every step of the way, it was so hard, because as they say, what you resist persists. But if we embrace it and say, okay, I can't go to the stores the way that I used to. For me, I don't think I'll ever go into a store again. I so embraced Instacart and Amazon and everything that's available online. So it's the attitude with which I looked at it and said, okay, I can't do that, but I can do this. And we're finding new and better ways to do things, because we're embracing this challenge or this change in a way that, okay, maybe the courts aren't going to be open the way they were before. So how do I manage my schedule so that I can embrace a Zoom conference or a deposition in a way that isn't the same? And we have to acquire new skills, just like we're doing right now, being on camera and figuring out, how does it look? What kind of image do we want to portray? This is all part of your brand. And we see so many times on a Zoom conference where people have no idea that it's so dark in the room that we can't even see their face. Or there's all this junk in the background and it doesn't look like you're put together. So it's how we embrace those little challenges and look at it differently, because in the past we didn't have to think about that. Somebody came to see us, we went to the conference room. The conference room was always set up. We didn't have to think about it. But now we have to think about it. So when you're preparing for your Zoom call, think about it as your conference room. How did your conference room look? It was nicely set out. There was coffee there. There was art on the walls, and it was clean and neat, and there weren't papers everywhere. So it gives you a kind of a different perspective. It's not just turning on your computer and connecting to Zoom and that's all there is. So it has taught us different skills. The status that we feel being in an office surrounded by our colleagues is all up here, right? It's not real status. It's just you feel like you're part of a community. And being part of a community doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sit right next to them, or that you have to run into them in the hallway, or that you have to share a cup of coffee in that physical way. So it's how you organize your business time to be able to recapture that sense of community and sense of belonging and sense of camaraderie that you had. And that can be done in so many ways. I was pretty adamant that I didn't like to do Zoom calls before. Or I or even telephone calls. I wanted to be in person. That's my style. I want to be able to feel somebody. But I have to admit that I have been able to connect with people just as well. And particularly with Zoom, because I'm seeing your eyes. I'm watching your body language. And I can get the same thing that I got if you were sitting in my office across the table from me. So it's how you embrace that and how you then communicate in a way that you don't let that computer screen be a barrier, that you're really connected to that person on the other side of the computer, and be able to say, I see you, you're not feeling right, or you seem to not agree, because I can read your body language. So it's getting that connection and even showing your own vulnerability to be able to say, I'm really not feeling up to it today, just as you would if you were in person. And it gives you this connectedness that is so needed. And I think that if it were not for Zoom, these past months would have been impossible with my clients, because my clients were feeling so distraught, overwhelmed, lost, and some of them have gone through unspeakable kinds of challenges. One of them had brain surgery. Another one was battling cancer. Another one had a friend shot, a colleague shot in a police standoff. How do you deal with that in these days? We still need to reach out as a human being and soothe people's fears and their anger and still talk. And I think it has brought us closer. It has revealed a kind of vulnerability and a trust with that vulnerability that we couldn't have done prior to this, because we wouldn't be thinking in that way. So it's shown us a way to be with people that is totally different. My mother lives in Denver, and I grew up in Denver. And about 8 years ago, I started going back home on a regular basis so that I could be closer to my mom. And I am so grateful that I did that 8 years ago, because today, the relationship I have with my mother and the conversations I have with my mother via telephone, she won't go on the computer and Zoom, so it's just a conversation on the telephone. The relationship is deeper, the conversation is more relevant and more substantive than we would have ever had I not established this foundation. She loves biographies and she loves politics. Well, this is a year for politics, right? So I've been sending her biographies of so many people, and she gets so excited. And she sometimes calls me just to read a passage to say, that reminded me, when I was 13. And imagine that kind of closeness via phone. Maybe it would never have happened had we been in the old school of engaging with people. I would have called and said, how's the weather? What are you doing today? Oh, are the flowers blooming? Just sort of throwaway conversation. Now we're talking about how someone felt in this book that made her think about how she felt. And those kinds of conversations are priceless. I think that we have to figure out the line that we can be empathetic and really hear someone and make them feel that they've been heard without taking it on as your own. And I know that that's a hard place to be. In the beginning, for me, I was taking on all the stress and anxiety of my clients to a point that I just overflowed. And I spent an entire weekend crying, and not at anything specific. It was just all that emotion built up, and that cry, that good solid cry, was because I was watching a movie that didn't warrant a good solid cry. But I cried as though it was coming from my feet, all the way up. And I realized it was all that anxiety and that overwhelm and stress. And sometimes we just need to let it out. And for me, it was a movie that was a tearjerker that just let me cry it out, and I was better. And it also told me that I need to be cognizant of that, and I need an outlet. So what could your outlet be? Is it a tearful movie? Is it jogging? Is it meditation? Is it howling at the moon? Something that is a release to be able to be that empathetic lawyer that you want to be, and be able to allow your clients to really sort of lean on you, and you take it in, but not all the way in. I have somebody who has embraced yoga, and she does yoga out on her patio, and every morning at 6:30. And she said it has totally changed her life to be out in nature. And granted, we're in Florida, so it's a little more conducive than being out in nature in Denver, Chicago, or New York. However, she has embraced it and has been doing it every single day, because it's so beneficial, and that she finds such strength from it that she said, I never thought about yoga before, and now there's this little meditation that they're adding to the yoga practice, and it's been perfect. I have another client that wrote a book, so she channeled all that energy into putting it down on paper, and she is releasing the book momentarily. So that was another way. I have another client that takes short runs with her dog, and that fuels her, and she feels like she's paying attention to her dog, because the dog is is the last one, and that has been fueling. I have another client that reads to her children, and she gets into that being present. Sometimes work is really stressful, and she's in her office trying to get things organized, and she's like, a little crazed. And her go-to place is to go out and read a story to her 5-year-old, to look into his face and see how excited he is that she's reading a story. As you know, I don't look at retirement as stop working, stop doing things. I look at retirement as a third act. And a third act can be a third act of your career in your mid-40s. It could be a third act of your passions, the things that you want to do in your 50s. So it has nothing to do with age, and it has everything to do with doing what you want to do and not stopping and now trying to figure out, well, I've read that stack of books, I've listened to these recordings, whatever it is. It is figuring out another stage of your life. And I have several clients that have taken this time to evaluate what they really want. And the time has given them the luxury of standing back and evaluating. Even if everything were perfect and normal again tomorrow, would I want to do that? Do I really want my life to look like that? And several have said, no, I don't want to live my life like that. I do not want that kind of stress in my life. There will always be stress in our lives. However, we get to choose what we want, and then that stress is more of a acceptable thing than it would have been had it been forced upon you. And the things that you're able to do, the way that you look at earning a living, and the way you look at living life, how can it be cohesive? How can it be in harmony so that one is fueling the other? And sometimes what you need to do is look at what fuels you. And sometimes you're looking at your day and you realize, that doesn't fuel me, that doesn't fuel me, that doesn't fuel me, that doesn't fuel me. You can't have too many of those throughout the day, because then you have nothing left. And that's how so many people would go home after work, after the commute, and they're a depleted person, and that's how they show up with their family. And I think what the pandemic has done for us, it's opened our eyes to those things. How can we make life a lot more harmonious with what we do for a living and what we do to live and who we want in our lives? I think it is very sustainable. I think what we have learned, this new way of working, it also brought us new ways of working with clients, and the relationship, the deep relationship that we are building with those clients. And the way we did it before is probably never going to go back to that. There's not going to be that normal networking and endless cocktail networking events. It's going to be different, and we have to look at it differently. I have a client that has been holding an annual event at a miniature car racing track, those indoor tracks. And he would invite probably about 20, or he invited about 50 people, and about 20 or 30 would show up every year. And so it's solidifying that relationship with those clients and introducing them to one another. And people looked forward to it, and they were awards, and they had a great time. And so this year, he's saying, oh my gosh, I can't do the race car event. But maybe I could do a wine tasting event. And I said, wine tasting event? He said, yeah. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a flight of wines delivered to everybody's home or office, wherever they are. And then I will have a sommelier talk about the wines, and they will have all the wines in their office, and be able to all talk about them and learn from the wine expert, and we can laugh and we know each other, and it's a whole different experience. It has the same element of doing something together and talking about it, and they have this camaraderie because they've been doing the other event for a few years, and now they're going to be doing this. And it's such a great idea that I stood up and cheered for him. I think that's a great way to look at it. That, okay, I can't do it that way, but maybe I can do it another way. I think we've got to look at it as a combination of things. Obviously, we're not going to be networking like we used to. So that budget is really, put aside. The events that we used to do, we can think about him like my New Jersey client, and how he can take those dollars and put it into the wine as opposed to into the venue of this racetrack. So it's reallocating some things. It is, I think, taking a look at how you can do something that is more heartfelt and is a one-on-one kind of connection. One of the things that I did for my client who went through brain surgery, I was going to send her flowers, and they said they can't have flowers in the hospital. So I sent her a photograph of a cup of coffee every morning and said, "Here's your cup of coffee," and had some little something to a little phrase or some kind of encouragement. And for her, she loved coming to my office because I would make her an espresso coffee every time. So that was special for her. I could do that for somebody else. It wouldn't have the same impact as it would for her, because I know she loves my coffees. So every morning I would think of which mug I was going to photograph and what I was going to say to her. In lieu of flowers, she got a photograph. So whatever it is that that person would appreciate, that it's something special, and that you thought about that person. It has equalized the status of big firm lawyer and solo small firm lawyer, because no one is driving up to a big building with their big name on the building, and they're just connecting with you. And that is giving the solo small firm lawyers such an added benefit that if that person needed a big firm lawyer, then absolutely. They need to get the name, they need to have the status of that big firm. But if it is a client that is just trying to select a lawyer that they think will understand their situation, it is sort of leveled things out. And that big status of coming into this big building with, gorgeous furnishings and gorgeous art and fancy office space, I don't think is going to be as important in the future. I think it has made us all look at what's important, and it's not fancy office space for anybody, big firm, small firm, medium firm. It's not for anybody. And there's a certain amount of it that we'll keep, but there's a lot that we won't. And there'll be office sharing where there wasn't before. There'll be more working from home where there wasn't before. And that's going to save a lot. It's going to save a lot of money with working from home. The new medium with Zoom conferences and videotaping your marketing to use on social media, you have to get comfortable with it. And there's only one way to get comfortable with it, and that's do it over and over and over again. Because it's not rocket science, right? And we weren't born sitting in front of a camera, right? Just as you weren't born sitting in front of a jury. You got to get comfortable with it. So doing what you think you might like, first of all, it's what do you think you would like doing? So there's got to be some kind of element of commitment that you want to do this, that you want to write a book, you want to tell your stories via Zoom or on video. You want to do your networking like that. You want to give more speeches. Whatever that thing is that inspires you, now figure out what the medium is to do that in. So if it is video, then just do a lot of it and critique it and get better and critique it and get better and look at what other people are doing and say, okay, I kind of like how this looks. No, I don't want to look like that. I don't want that to be my brand, because I want you to remember that everything you do is your personal brand. So you are adding to your brand with everything you do. And you get to craft it in any way you want. When I decided that I wanted to be an author, a coach, and a speaker, I was none of those things. It was where I wanted to go. And so when I did them the first time, not so great, maybe good. And I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again. And it's like anything. When you did your first trial, or you wrote your first contract, not so great, but it was good. And it got better, and it got better, and it got better. And that's the same thing here. The problem is that we're already professionals. We have this thing that I got it together. Or it's this thing in our heads that say, you can't let people know you don't know how to do something. It's that imposter syndrome. And you can't let that voice keep talking to you saying, what do you know about that? And how you can't do that? Or, of course you can and you do it, but never evaluate it. So there has to be that voice in your head that says, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to evaluate it. I'm going to figure it out. And be open to critique, be open to do it better the next time, and keep building on it, because wherever you want to go, and you may not know anything about that, whatever it is, you keep learning and you build on it. You keep learning and you build on it. And you didn't have it when you started, but you will have it as you move down the road of growth on that. And that's the only way to do it. You don't wake up in the morning and argue in front of a jury. It didn't happen like that. It's a lot of mock trials. There's a lot of studying and doing it and adjusting and do it and adjust and do it and adjust. I think there are a lot of people who resist the technology portion of things. And I'm sort of that person too. And so how do we do that? How do we embrace the new world of technology? And that is very simple. We surround ourselves with a team that can do the things that you don't know how to do, or that you don't want to do, or you don't even want to learn how to do. Fine. And surround yourself with those people that are going to help you do it the way you want it, to the level that you want it to be. And that goes not just for technology, it goes for a lot of things. And that even the idea that you're home and your kids are homeschooled and online, that doesn't mean you have to be the teacher and the science teacher and the art teacher and the phys ed teacher. And so maybe there's a team of people that you have in that regard, or anything in your life, looking at how can you get a team around you that makes what you get to do the fun part, and figure out how the back end. Do you think that I could be doing this video without my producer behind that camera? No, it would not happen. And that's not what I want to do, is set the camera, run over here, try to talk, and then go back there. Did I do it okay? No, I'm not doing that. There's some people who can do that, and they have fun doing it that way. And there are those like me that don't want to do that. I want to do something else. So pick the task that you like and the part of it that you are comfortable with, or that you know you want to get comfortable with, and figure out how to do that. And then surround yourself with the people that are going to help you do that. I have a huge team today, probably about 20 some people, that help me with various parts of things so that I can do the part I like. For instance, social media. The part I like is Instagram, because I'm an amateur photographer and I've been taking photographs probably all my life. And I love photography and I love quotes. So I created an Instagram account that is focused on my photography and quotes, some of them mine, most of them not. And it's fun. On those weekends that I do my Instagram, I love it because it takes me back to my travels and when I took that photograph and what I was thinking and what was going on. So it's kind of a restorative thing. And what has happened since I started doing that? My speeches are different because now they have a lot of my own photography in it. My social media, other parts of my social media now have more personal connections to me. And do I still have the people who are scheduling my many social media posts? Yes. But now I'm involved and I'm driven to figure out what I want and the personal brand that I'm creating. First of all, I'm not talking about payroll. I'm not talking about people on my payroll. It's people that you hire on a contractual or freelance basis that you use for this amount of time. And they do this task and they're really good at that task and really good at this task so that it is affordable. And the final product is so much better than if you were to muddle through it yourself. And it's polished and it is befitting the personal brand that you want to create. But I am never, ever in the realm of increasing overhead, increasing payroll. No. It's not about payroll. It's about hiring freelance to do this one task, to do all your graphic design for all of your social media, and that person gets to know who you are and how you work, and can give you a very focused and solid piece of work that you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time. Give you templates so that, like me, my gal gave me a template for my Instagram project. And so I had a template. I know how to, in it, because I'm good at PowerPoint, she gave it to me in PowerPoint because I know how to move photographs around and make things bigger and smaller and change photographs, which is minor, but that's what I know. So I made it a template that I know. So whatever skills you have, use those skills. The idea of contract help, a contracted team, doesn't just apply to your social media and the things that you don't know how to do. It applies across the board. I am a firm believer that getting work and doing work from other lawyers is really a very powerful way to grow your practice. I have a client that has 3 clients, that's all, and has a sizable practice. Why 3 clients? Because he has 3 referral sources, 3 people who he's committed to and they're committed to, and he helps them with their cases all the time and has built a whole practice on those 3 people. No payroll. They have no payroll. When they do the work, they get paid. So it can apply to anything that you're doing.